Yo, what's good, y'all? Your boy Justin Henry here. Justin Henry Show on the J-Hand Fantasy Network. And listen, man, we got to talk about week 5. Obviously, a lot happened on the football field. We had a few teams on bye, but for the most part, we had some interesting games, some overtime games, a lot of come from behind victories. But it's week 5, and so I want to know how your fantasy teams are doing. Obviously, I'll be live tapped in here, so if you guys hit me on the live stream, check me out. Ask me whatever questions you want. But I'm going to be I just dropped the waiver pickups. I want to go over them real quick. I'll talk about waiver pickups for week 6 while I have time. And then obviously I want to get to some week 5 recap stuff and then talk about week 6 too. We only have 2 teams on bye for week 6, so a lot more player intel. But going over my waiver wire pickups, there's really only 2 players that I think should be picked up. I guess you can consider 3 if you're in a deeper league or need a little bit more upside. But for Rico Dowdle, I talked about him this offseason. I talked about Chuba Hubbard, and the reason why I was a little concerned about Chuba Hubbard was the fact that Rico Dowdle was there. He's a 1,000-yard rusher. So a little bit of concern there. It showed the reason why this week, because he's able. And so I think as long as Chuba Hubbard's out for that calf injury, as long as he's out, we're probably going to see Rico Dowdle play well. So obviously over 200 yards. He had 206 on 23 carries and a touchdown versus the Dolphins. And then next week, he's got a revenge game on deck versus Dallas. So I don't think this is one of those like 20, 30% fab players or like max out the fab. But like if you are in need of a running back, Rico Dowdle should be a good option at least next week, or as long as Chuba Hubbard's out. We don't even know the severity of how long he's out. So Rico Dowdle, a pickup. Not necessarily like a must-go grab, but I think for next week, specifically against Dallas, he'd be a good RB2-ish type running back to have. The other pickup I really like this week is Mason Taylor. This is going to go a little bit under the radar because we saw A.J. Barner and we saw Theo Johnson both have 2 touchdowns. So I think in most fantasy circles, people are going to say, go pick up Theo Johnson or go pick up A.J. Barner. And I think Mason Taylor in PPR leagues is the one I'd want the most. He's had 6, 7, and 12 targets over the last 3 weeks. So for me, that's been since Justin Fields been back. That kind of seems like he might be the wide receiver 2 in this offense, even at the tight end position. So I think Mason Taylor could creep into like high-end tight end 2, maybe even back-end tight end 1 territory the rest of the season. So I think Mason Taylor, you might be able to get him for free as opposed to having to pay for like a Theo Johnson or an A.J. Barner just based off the touchdown. So Mason Taylor, a sneaky name to watch. And then the last one I want to talk about as far as like a J-Hen guy, Ryan Flournoy. This isn't normally my kind of pickup because it kind of feels like a flash in the pan, but we got to talk about it because he had 112 yards, 6 catches. 9 targets when I was thinking it was going to be Jalen Tolbert. It looks like Flournoy kind of took over that secondary receiver role. So I think he'll be a flex over the next week or 2. However long CeeDee Lamb is out, I wouldn't count on him long-term, but I think he does have some upside, at least while CeeDee's out. Couple other names to note. Kendrick Bourne, obviously, as long as Ricky Pearsall, Juwan Jennings are banged up, he's going to have value, 142 catches on Thursday night. You got Theo Johnson, who had 2 touchdowns. I talked about that. 7 targets. I kind of think that Jackson Dart experience is going to be a little shaky, so I wouldn't expect that on most weeks. Just another name to note. A.J. Barner, if I had to pick between him and Theo Johnson, I'd rather have A.J. Barner. He's been a top 10 tight end in 3 out of the first 5 weeks of the year. And even 7 targets yesterday, good number. Same as Theo Johnson, just better yardage-wise. He's playing around 80% of the snaps, too, most of the games this year. Only 1 game where he didn't. Couple deeper league names to note with Amarian Hampton leaving the game in a walking boot. We got Hassan Haskins and Kamani Vidal. I think those are both desperation plays right now. Kind of reminds me of like the Arizona backfield. I think I'd rather have Kamani Vidal, but I probably am going to stay away from both. I think it's going to be more of a headache than anything, especially if Hampton can get back. Depends. If it's high ankle, we might be talking about 3-4 weeks or IR. And if it's not a high ankle, if it's low ankle, you're still probably talking at least another week or 2. So I think Vidal, Hassan Haskins, going to be tough. If it's IR, wouldn't be surprising to go see the Chargers go get a running back. I think they don't want to do what they did last year when J.K. and Gus Edwards were both out. And it kind of feels like that same thing that happened last year is happening again. And then the last pickup I want to talk about, I'll get in some questions real quick, and then I'll go over the games really quickly. Luke McCaffrey. Now, this is like your 16-team leagues. I got to talk about some deeper options. But Terry McLaurin's been kind of banged up all year. He got the bag. And Luke McCaffrey hasn't seen the volume yet, but he's flashing that really big playability. When Austin Eckler, I had a chance to interview him, he said Luke could be in for a big year. I don't think this is a big year, and I don't think this is a player like I would want to pick up in anything less than like a 14 or 16-man league. But I think he has some appeal as like, when you can make big plays, they try to find ways to get you more involved. So Debo's obviously the receiver to own right now. I'm sure Terry will be back next week or soon, but just don't be surprised if down the road, Luke McCaffrey starts to flash a little bit more of that ability. They start to get him more looks. He played in 37% of the snaps this week, so nothing too crazy, but just a name to note as time goes on. What's good, chat? What's good? He said, what it do, June? How's the move? Move has been great. Man, having the time of my life right now. I'm not going to lie to you. So every day I'm out here, I'm like, thank God I'm out here. And it's been a blessing to be out here. And, man, I don't know how else to say it, but it's been truly a once-in-a-lifetime experience already, and I'm just getting started. Who would have thought Darren Waller would be a league winner? Hey, got the whole team on me. You feel me? Like, it's crazy, but he really is a viable option. I'm gonna talk to you. I'll talk to you guys about him in a second. Oh, he called me June. He said J-Han. Teddy, what's good? You said morning. It's afternoon for me right now. 1:30 in the afternoon. What up, J-Han? Good to see you. Guadalupe, good to see you as well. Fantasy season is over. I'm going to be 0-5, even with JT's big game. That's crazy. I wouldn't call it over. Just keep trying. Keep trying. You got to keep trying, bro. 0-5. I've seen a team be 0-7 and still make the playoffs and losing the fantasy championship. So don't be too, just keep playing. At the end of the day, you put in $100, you put in $500, you put in $10, you put in a free league. Like, at the end of the day, remember this is a game, and as much as I want to predict things, you want to predict things, shit, the teams themselves, who would have predicted the Baltimore Ravens would be 1-4? There's just not a lot you can always predict in fantasy football, and that's why we got to stick to what we know, right? A couple weeks ago, I was like, sell Emeka Egbuka for the high, and then Mike Evans gets hurt, and he turns into elite wide receiver one. And then I also said, hey, Najee's going to come back in the backfield. Amarian Hampton, now everybody's telling me, oh, you're a fade, you suck, Amarian Hampton, blah, blah, blah. And he gets hurt. So now we're like, okay, what do we do if you have Amarian Hampton? There's so much that changes in football. People were panicking last week on Ja'Marr Chase, and we sat here and we talked about it. Don't panic about Ja'Marr Chase. So there's a lot that happens in fantasy football in general. Shit could change real quickly for you. So I wouldn't say give up on, 0-5. Your season ain't over yet. It ain't looking good, but it ain't over. 0-8 man made hella moves, basically moved Lamb, ETN, DK, and BTJ for Hampton, Dobbins, Waddle, and JMO through 3 different trades. Kid I played scored 200 anyway. Sometimes this is the name of the game, bro. Sorry to hear that, Jason. Normally you're a strong player too. I know your team is probably strong, or at least it was strong before all the moves. I feel like you downgraded a little too much. Lamb, you had to move. BTJ have been playing right. DK on the bye. ETN, yeah. I mean, I get it, but I don't like what you got back, but I get your moves, bro. I get it. Literally just trade away Chuba and Debo for Brees and Ja'Marr Chase. Smart man here. Smart man. Jay, and happy to see you. Hope everything's good. Thoughts on Michael Carter now, what to do? I think T. Higgins is going to be a tough piece to trust on a weekly basis. Obviously, a lot of ups and downs with T. Higgins, but for me, I still think that he's at least hold him still. Jake Browning, I mean, it's good. He didn't play well, but it's good to see the yardage there for him. So hopefully T.O. gets some more looks. I think he's going to be super touchdown dependent. And then Michael Carter, I'll talk about this. I'll talk about a lot of this. I'm going to go over the games today. I know I said that last time and I didn't. I got to go over the games this time because I feel like it'd be good to at least have my thoughts. I haven't really put my thoughts on the players, and it's funny because I see group consensus about certain players, and I'm completely the opposite on some of these guys. So we'll see. Let's see how it turns out. I'm about to go over the games here in just a second. Real quick, though. It won't be too long. All right, let me do that right now, actually. I'm going to go over the games. I got some thoughts on them. And then you guys can feel free to continue to load the questions up. I'm going to answer questions. If you guys got stuff about tonight, too, tonight what you need, just let me know. Feel free to drop that in the chat. But let me go through these games real quick. All right. So touching on the San Francisco, the Niners and the Rams, obviously Mac Jones becomes a streamable asset anytime Purdy's out. Saw him have a crazy game. Obviously, the system is there. And then a lot of pickup talk will be about Kendrick Bourne this week after the game he had. 10 catches, 142. So I think he's only a pickup if Jennings and Pearsall are out. Literally, that's the only way. Otherwise, Kendrick Bourne's kind of forgettable. So don't go overspending on Kendrick Bourne. If you need a receiver for next week, maybe, but there's a chance that both Pearsall and Jennings can be back. Don't forget, George Kittle's also on the way back. He was put on IR after week 1. It's week 6 coming into next week. So just know George Kittle's on the way back. And then CMC, I think as long as he's healthy, we know what he is. It's can he stay healthy the whole year? If he does, whoever drafted him is going to be very happy. He's the RB1 right now. And then Stafford, showing who Stafford is, obviously 389 yards. And, you know, I think Stafford's just one of those QB2s. He's going to have big weeks. He's going to have some, you know, regular weeks. But the main thing here for me is that Stafford is really going to provide us 2 top 15 receivers, and one of them is going to be the wide receiver one, or at least a strong possibility of it. Puka is leading the way right now. It's going to be a miss for me. I thought Puka would be limited by Davante Adams. It seems like they're helping each other out, and this is going to be a good thing for both Puka and for Davante. Davante's the number 15 receiver right now, and then Puka had 10 catches, 85 yards, and a TD. It's like, yeah, I'm going to miss on Puka this year, and shout out to those who were wanting me to miss. That's fine. Can we move on now? Like, obviously, Puka's an elite talent. Had it scripted wrong, and those who drafted Puka right now, he's leaps and shoulders, bounds, whatever the phrase is. He is clearly ahead of the rest of the receivers right now. It would probably take an injury or something to slow him down, because the way this offense is moving, both of them have crazy volume and are going to be valid receivers. So 11 targets for Adams. It's like 10 catches for Puka. Both of these receivers can be viable, and they don't hurt each other at all. And as far as Kyren goes, I know there was some concern about him last year, but this is why it's tough to like not panic on players. You have to see things through. And I know there was some Blake Corum talk taking over the work. It's like Kyren is a floor-based RB1. The team just paid him. No need to really worry about Kyren, because even, you know, when you don't get the rushing work with him, you get the receiving work. He had 14 carries, 65 yards, but then 66 yards in the receiving game and 2 touchdowns there. So definitely not worried about Kyren at all. For those who have Kyren, treat him as a mid-tier RB1. That's just what he is. And I know we talked about that here on the channel. We talked about that, but continue to value him like that. I don't think anything's happening with Kyren this year. Moving on to Minnesota and Cleveland, we saw Minnesota pull out the late win there early for the London game. Carson Wentz been serviceable, nothing crazy, but the good thing is he's not hurting Justin Jefferson, who's still showing elite wide receiver 1 upside. He had 7 catches for 123 yards on 11 targets. So, I mean, it hasn't mattered for Jefferson this year. We ain't seeing like that true elite, the wide receiver 1 ceiling I wish we would have seen, but I think the yardage is going to be there. The looks are going to be there. They're going to find creative ways to get him involved. Jordan Addison got benched, but then had a game-winning catch. So I know for Jordan Addison, he's going to be a tough player to rank on a weekly basis, because he has like, you know, wide receiver 2 upside on a weekly basis, but then there's probably going to be games where he's more like wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 worthy. So I think he's still a startable piece. Obviously, he had the touchdown, but I think Jordan Addison is going to be one of those pieces we look at every week, like big game, mediocre game. It just comes with the territory with him. Jordan Mason. For those who have Jordan Mason right now, I think he's a sell high. He had a TD, but he also had the fumble. We also know Aaron Jones will probably be back in the next 2-3 weeks. So I think Jordan Mason's one of those players we wanted to go into this role. We've got to see him, but he's like a high-end RB2, and I think a lot of people thought he could go into like this RB1 range. So for me, I imagine it goes back to a committee when Aaron Jones gets back, if he comes back and plays the same role. But I just think that we kind of have this value on Jordan Mason right now where it might be time to say, okay, I know he still has another good game or 2 left in him at least, but when Aaron Jones does return, I think this is a split. And I think Aaron Jones has a good chance of taking over his RB1 spot again. So I don't know. Maybe I'm pushing the button a little too early on Jordan Mason, but I kind of think a week ahead, if you're in a good spot record-wise, if you're in a bad spot record-wise, just keep him. But if you're in a good spot record-wise, I could see this as a really good sell-high moment. He had the touchdown, showing some concerns there. Like if he had a mediocre game next week, I think it might be a little tougher to move a Jordan Mason at the cost that you can get right now. You could probably get RB1 type value for him right now. And then TJ Hawkinson, good to see him. I think Aaron Jones actually might be a nice little buy low name. You could probably get him for damn near free That's another side note. And I don't think he's not like somebody I would be actively trading for, just a little name to note there. And then TJ Hawkinson been much better after a slow start. I mean, he only had 6 catches, 30-something yards. But TJ Hawkinson, I know there was a lot of concern with him. Maybe he doesn't have top 3 ceiling, but I still think he's a tight end one on a weekly basis. As far as Dillon Gabriel, I think he'll keep the values afloat, but I have some concern for the passing game. Jeudy and Bond, I think both of them are going to be tough to trust. Jerry Jeudy, when Cedric Tillman comes back, he's going to be tough to trust. Isaiah Bond's probably going to be up and down, even playing their slot right now. So I think everybody in Cleveland, there will be some value there. It's just going to be tough to trust who. And I think the value, as we saw on Sunday, is probably going to be at the tight end position with David Njoku and Fannin. Your guess is as good as mine who's going to be the number 1 each week. I still prefer David Njoku, as we've talked about here. I think Harold Fannin's kind of more of a long-term project for him. For this Browns team, but both tight ends will probably have some kind of value on a weekly basis. I prefer Njoku over Fannin right now. And then as far as Quinshon Judkins, treat him as a high-end RB2. I don't think the passing game work is there to make him like an RB1 in PPR leagues. I know he's going to have some good weeks, and this offense will still move. But I think Judkins is more high-end RB2 than he is like RB1, which I've kind of seen floating around out there. I think Judkins is like that mid-tier to high-end RB2. If he doesn't get the touchdown, he's probably going to be somewhere between 10 to 15 points. Touchdown makes him a back-end RB1 on most weeks because he's not going to get 4 or 5 catches in the passing game on most weeks. And then the Raiders in Indy, not a whole lot here. Obviously, Gentry will be up and down. So I kind of think Gentry's like a back-end RB1 right now. But it was good to see him involved in the receiving game. And I think that's where, if he's going to be an RB1 this year the rest of the way, he needs to stay involved in the receiving game. Trey Tucker in this receiving game as well has kind of taken over this number 1 spot. Jacoby Myers has been there, but like Trey Tucker's flashed a big playability. So Tucker to me is a flex. Jacoby Myers is either tradable, benchable, whatever you want to do with Jacoby Myers. I'm not really interested in him. And then even with Brock Bowers dealing with the PCL, it kind of feels like Tucker is the guy to have. Speaking of Brock Bowers, it's a little concerning to see him try to get through practice, then miss practice on Thursday, dealing with that PCL. It wouldn't surprise me if he's out for like 2, maybe 3 weeks. On the Indy side, Daniel Jones is going to continue to be a high-end QB2 no matter what. Jonathan Taylor will be a threat for the RB1. Like, even without all the receiving work, 3 touchdowns again. Like, Jonathan Taylor might be like an 1,800-yard, 20-touchdown guy this year. And then good to see Michael Pittman. Michael Pittman, if you're wondering like how to value him, he's a top 15 guy the rest of the way. He is the wide receiver 1, like we talked about this offseason, the wide receiver 1 to have in this offense. And then Tyler Warren, been a top 3 tight end so far. Congratulations if you drafted him. I don't see that changing at all. At all. Let me take a quick break real quick. Y'all like this or no? Y'all like this? I wish I had the games up, but I don't have the games up. I have the old games from last week up. I wish I had like the little – I haven't had time to really get through all this stuff. You guys liking that or not? Y'all liking this? Y'all liking this real quick? Need 14 points from BTJ today. Might be cooked. Need 14 from ETN. I don't know. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game than advertised tonight. KC and Jacksonville. I think it might be a little lower scoring game. Pittman and ETN for Garrett. I think it's a little high, but I'm not mad at you. Keeping Diggs or selling. If you can sell high on Diggs, I think that was more revenge game than anything. I'm not really trusting Diggs on a weekly basis to me more than like a wide receiver 3 flex. 2 and 3 in a 12-man league. You're good. 2 and 3 is fine. Thoughts on team? Jay Fields. This team looks solid to me. Got lots of upside. I feel like Jameson's probably done you dirty. I thought Jameson would be much better. Thought Ridley would be much better. Keon has been kind of ass. I think this team's solid, though. 12-man, solid. Dak, JT Kamara, JCM, Mason Tootin. You're 0-5 with this team? With Dak, JT, Krosky Merritt, Jordan Mason, CD obviously hurt. Lad's been trash. Mar's been up and down trash. Wandale's been up and yeah. You're probably just missing on the receivers. Try training some of the RBs and CD Lamb. Nobody's one of them. Lost because the other guy had Chase. Damn. What to do about Derrick Henry? Hold Derrick Henry. You'll be all right. Hold Derrick Henry. Hold on, Derrick Henry. I think it's tough right now with Cooper Rush. I'll talk about the Baltimore game. I think I have that next. I'll talk about the Baltimore game, but I think that Derrick Henry, what do? You're not treat him as a high-end RB2. Treat him kind of like Judkins right now. It is what it is until Lamar gets back. I think with Cooper Rush in there, we just got to know what it is. He's an RB2. He doesn't catch the rock. it's tough because you think, it was easy to see what he did last year and think it could be replicated. This Baltimore team just hasn't looked the same. 0-5 going up against 5-0 next week. Pretty much done. If CD and Chuba don't play this week, I'm done. It's been that kind. Hey, it's been that kind of fantasy year. I'm not gonna lie. Favorite props for tonight, yo. You got to check out the NFL Bet Chat in the Discord. I've been on a heater, hitting like 8,000. Yo, the craziest part, bruh. So the craziest part of this whole move is that like I moved from California, and then I went to Arizona. And in Arizona, you can bet. So I was like, okay, cool. I got the Caesar Sportsbook. I got Underdog, all that shit. It's good to go. Like, bet. We can look at all the lines. It's money. Like, I'm going to be placing way more bets. It's good. And in the minute I get to Portugal, it's illegal to sports bet over here. So I can't access anything. Underdog, I can't even pull up the websites. So I don't know what the prop lines are for tonight. I don't know what none of the lines are. Only thing I can see on Underdog is if I use a VPN, I can see like the receiving and receptions prop, like the yardage, and I can see fantasy points on Underdog. That's it. I can't access the lines anywhere. So if anybody has an idea on how to do that with a VPN, I use NordVPN. So like if anybody knows how to do that, hit me because I don't know how to access. I can't talk about it. I can't see the lines. Like it's frustrating. It's frustrating. So my plan was to get back in on everything this week, the bets, waivers, pickups, game-by-game stuff, and I can't see the lines. It's like really frustrating. So if anybody got an idea, let me know. One thing my league's fantasy has changed in terms of like the waiver, how people build rosters, every handcuff being taken. I've said it's because the superstars haven't been like superstarish, I would say for the most part. Like Puka's been superstarish, JT has been superstarish, CMC has been superstarish, but like Bijan's been superstarish. Amon-Ra St. Brown has, but like we drafted Nico, BTJ, we drafted AJ Brown, Lad McConkey, Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, Derrick Henry, Saquon. Like if you really truly think about it, a lot of those like elite picks haven't been there. So it hasn't been a need to be like, oh, these guys are good. Let me just toss them to the wayside. Like CD's been out. There's a lot here. So I think when it comes to like the handcuffs being taken, I think that we just kind of know that there hasn't been like there's been a real need for like in case something bad happens to one of my guys, or I'm kind of struggling right now production wise. I need to have an option. Whereas before, I think people get okay with like, oh, I got Saquon. Probably the people right now who thought they had Amarian Hampton good. I don't need these backup running backs. I need to find a different position. So I think there's just been more like options there when it comes to backups, and committees are being used. So yeah, I feel like fantasy has changed. People are getting smarter too. Like there's so much information out there now, good and bad. Jan, in my money league, my team is quarterback. What should I do? What should I make? What move should I make? What to do with my team? Love, Bijan, Jacobs, good there. Pittman, T, Marv, Diggs. I think your team is fine. Waller's a TD, the tight end. I think you're fine here, bro. Well, you're probably, 2 and 3? Fields been out. You had Jordan Love on a bye. Bijan is on a bye. Jacobs on a bye. You're good, bro. You're good. You already locked in some buys. Maybe you got Pittman, Marv as your 2, and then you can flex in T, Diggs, Godwin. Maybe you take one of those 2 of those 3. You try to flip up. Maybe you use Michael Carter and Michael Carter and Diggs after a strong week and try to get a better receiver. I think you need to get a receiver. Try to buy low on one of these guys, man. I know I don't want to keep saying AJ Brown, but like AJ Brown's got to be better. I don't think he has a just complete dud season. Maybe he's not the wide receiver one that I thought he could be, but like I still think he's a good trade target. Nico, there's a lot of like good targets that just haven't performed. So have you shifted on JSN with him having JT, and now Diggs coming to form? Squad feels like a cheat code. Yeah, I've shifted on JSN. I think I missed on JSN. It's easy to see like the volumes there. Sam Darnold was much better than I thought. This offense under Clint Kubiak looks much better than I thought it would. Cooper Kupp is not playing the role that I thought he would. Torrey Horton is probably a name I'd rather have even than Cooper Kupp. So even though Kupp had a decent game, like I just feel like, yeah, I think I've shifted on JSN. He's got to be a top 10-ish, top 5-ish receiver the rest of the way. Probably a real threat for like the wide receiver one. If he's getting this kind of volume, Donald throwing him this many touchdowns, I'm going to be 1,000% wrong on JSN, and I'm okay with that. Like where we were taking JSN, it just felt like there was kind of a trap when we already had some established names. So yes, during the fantasy season, a lot of people want to get on me about off-season takes. I don't really key part about this, I don't really care about the offseason takes. It's good to go back and look at accountability-wise. Were we good in the process? Did it happen the right way? But what I care more about, and I haven't been able to help as much as I wanted to this year on this, but what I really care about, and I think the people who rock with me on YouTube know, is like, I want to help y'all win your league. So if I miss, like, that's fine. And yes, I got to change. I think this is the appropriate time right now to start reassessing values. We have 4 or 5 weeks of football, a third of the season. Now we can start to say, okay, this player is better than I thought he was. This is a miss. Because if we really look, I think that there were a lot of players that I hit on, but they were probably later picks. Like you talk about Pittman. I don't want to go into that right now. But I do want to say, like, yeah, you have to adjust your rankings at some point. There's no point in staying locked in your takes. So I missed on Puka. I missed on JSN. Like, I have no problem saying that. So for those who are watching this clip or watching this video and say, you know, oh, you missed on it, that's fine. I don't expect to go perfect on players. But yes, Trey, I know you're not the one who's saying this, but yes, I have shifted on JSN. I liked JSN a lot last year. I just didn't like the draft spot he was going in the second, third round this year. He is a first-round player, first-round talent, and a top 5-ish, at least at floor, top 5 receiver the rest of the way. You have to. Now, I find myself struggling to trade for a player that's outproduced like that. I find myself struggling to go get a JSN and trade talks and really give up assets like a Brian Thomas and A.J. Brown for JSN. That's a struggle for me because I still see value there. Like Jamar Chase bounced back. I'm sure Jamar Chase got flipped for the low by a lot of people last week. So I still find a struggle like paying for players at top price. I like finding value a little bit more. But yes, I think JSN, if you have him, keep him. He's an elite asset the rest of the way. All right, let me get back into the games real quick. Talked about, so going to New York and the Saints, we saw the Saints win 26-14. Jackson Dart, this experience is probably going to be a little wild, I think, for the rest of the year. See some ups and downs. Really not sure who the number one is going to be without Malik Neighbors. It's probably going to be a nightmare. A lot of people probably thought Slayton would go in there, Wan'Dale Robinson. We have Jalen Hyatt truthers coming out of the woodworks, but I think overall the passing game is probably going to get ugly. Theo Johnson caught 2 touchdowns. I don't really trust any pass catcher on the Giants. If I had to pick one, Wan'Dale's probably the safest floor. Darius Slayton probably provides a little bit of upside long-term, but I probably would stay away from most receivers if I could in this Giants offense. And then until Tyrone Tracy gets back, I think Cam Scatterbo will have the volume, but just will really lack those big games. Tyrone Tracy might even be a name to go get. Like once, we saw Scatterbo fumble, but like, I don't know, he kind of feels like a volume, bowling ballish type play more so than like elite volume, like kind of like a Damian Pierce, Mike Davis. Like I don't really see Cam Scatterbo having a lot of huge fantasy weeks. I think he's relevant right now, and I think he's RB2 worthy, but that's about it. And then as far as like the New Orleans side, obviously Spencer Rattler looks like he could probably play the starter role all year long, which means that Olave is still going to be in there, that wide receiver 2 range. Shaheed will probably have some blow-up games, but probably more tough to trust as anything more than a wide receiver 3 or flex moving forward for both. I think Olave, we talked about Olave this offseason. I'm glad he's having the season he's having, and it looks like Rattler will trust him. You still got to think about the concussions with him, but overall, I think Olave is a good wide receiver 2, 3 to have. I think Shaheed is going to have blow-up weeks and probably finish as a wide receiver 3 flex. Just be annoying to have. And then don't forget Taysom Hill is back. He didn't have much of an impact this game, but I think as he works back from his injury, he'll get more involved. He's still kind of a boomer bust tight end 2 to have until he proves something otherwise. But I do think if you have Juwan Johnson and you can find a way to move him as a top 5 tight end, do it. I think Juwan Johnson does fit the sell high mold, especially with Taysom Hill back. I don't think Taysom Hill comes and takes this crazy workload, but I think we have, you got Kittle coming back. There's a lot of tight ends that are playing at a good level right now to where if somebody wants to buy into Juwan Johnson as a tight end upgrade, I think I would do it. I think he's been a tight end 1, and I think I could see him sliding back into tight end 2 territory. As far as Kamara and Kendre Miller, this has become a split now. I think for those who drafted Alvin Kamara, you need a trade, which I think could happen with all the RB injuries. I don't know if the Chargers, the Cardinals go get him. Chiefs, we'll see what the Chiefs do after tonight against the Jags, but I think we need a trade here. It's probably going to happen. And I think Kendre Miller has earned more work, but it's ugly right now. So Kendre Miller, probably a tough player to hold after a mediocre week last week. Is still seeing the volume. Kamara, more of a name than anything right now. I think you need a trade in order for it to happen. Otherwise, it's going to be an RB2, RB3 rest of the year. Dallas in New York, we have the Dallas Cowboys, man. Dak is looking elite, 237 yards and 4 TDs. Now, when it comes to Dak, I think, we know who he is, and he's playing at top 3 to 5 levels right now, which is, when Dak is healthy, he's normally a top 3 to 5 quarterback, and that's without CeeDee Lamb, which is crazy. So I think until Lamb gets back, when Lamb gets back, it doesn't matter. Dak is an elite fantasy quarterback. Let's call it that, elite fantasy quarterback. And then George Pickens will continue to be a wide receiver 1 until Lamb gets back. I talked about it. I think my concern, and we saw it until that long 40-yard touchdown, the problem with Pickens is that he can be really up and down. I think until Lamb gets back, you still have to put him wide receiver 1. But if I could sell high on George Pickens, I would. I would. And I think when Lamb gets back, he returns back to that volatile wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 range, which is the correct value. But I think people are looking for production right now, and if I had George Pickens, I would try to move him as a top 15 receiver. I would try to. Ryan Flournoy, I talked about him in the waiver wire part. I think he provides some upside at flex. But him, Jalen Tolbert, I think both of those guys will be too inconsistent to trust, especially while CeeDee's out. If I had to pick one, I think you pick Flournoy for the upside, maybe this week and next week. After that, when CeeDee comes back, he's probably a drop. The one player on this offense, 2 players actually, that are kind of surprises in a way. Javonte Williams is really an RB1. Like, there's really no other way to put it. They're using him in the red zone, passing game. Like, Javonte is an RB1. He's currently right now the RB3 overall, had 135 yards, 2 touchdowns. And it's like, there's just no world where he really slows down. Like, Jaden Blue is there. He's back now with Miles Sanders' injury. But, like, Javonte's a guy. And he's not losing the workload. So, I think until further notice, we got to put him at least as a top 10 option the rest of the way. I was high on Javonte in the offseason, not high enough on him to start the year. Like, after week 1 started, I didn't adjust quick enough. But now we have to put him as a top 10-ish running back the rest of the way. And then Jake Ferguson is the tight end 1 and is going to challenge for that tight end 1 spot, especially with CeeDee out. They found a nice role for him, 7 catches, 49 yards, 2 touchdowns. And even when CeeDee comes back, I could see him being a safety valve for Dak. So Ferguson showed this promise a couple years ago, dealt with the injury last season. I think it continues this year. And if you have Jake Ferguson, I wouldn't treat him as like Jawan Johnson, trade him away, sell high once CeeDee comes back. I think you can expect Jake Ferguson to be a top 3 to 5 option the rest of the way, probably higher than that. As far as the Jets side, we have Justin Fields did most of his damage in the second half, still finished with over 20 fantasy points, but that's what you get with Justin Fields, the experience, the roller coaster. You get the lows, you get the highs. I think we're going to see a lot of highs. Justin Fields is going to be an elite asset the rest of the way. This is why I ranked him as, I think, my quarterback 6 or 7 to start the year. So Justin Fields, he's going to have some lows, but just trust it with Fields. He'll do you dirty 3 to 4 times in a year, but I think there's enough upside to trust. Breece Hall continues to be elite, especially with Braylon Allen out. He is an RB1 the rest of the year, top 10 RB1 the rest of the year, had 150 total yards. As far as Garrett Wilson, treat him as a top 12 receiver asset the rest of the way. 6 catches, 71 yards, and a touchdown. I think there might be some down weeks with Wilson, but he gets enough volume every week, and he is the wide receiver to trust in this offense. So I don't really see a whole lot of like 3 catch for 30 yards, 2 catch for 30 yards. I don't see many of those weeks. It's going to be 4 catch for 50 yards or like 5 catches for 40 yards. Those are to be the down weeks for Garrett Wilson. And then he's going to have weeks like this where it's, 70 yards and a TD. I think more of those days are ahead for Garrett Wilson. Treat him as a top 10 receiver, top 10, 12-ish receiver the rest of the way. And then as far as the wide receiver 2 on this team, it might actually be Mason Taylor. I talked about that at the top of the show with the waiver wires, but 25 targets in his last 3 games is crazy. 6, 7, 12 targets, like that's, with the T. I think Mason Taylor really has like some nice tight end 2, high-end tight end 2, like startability during bye week appeal for Mason Taylor. So for me, the targets is just letting me know like Justin Fields is looking his way. He is the secondary piece in this offense. I think Mason Taylor is a good grab right now, and he'll go underrated behind some of the other tight ends this week. Denver, Philly. I think we kind of know what Bo Nix is right now. If you drafted Bo Nix, Denver, obviously good win against Philly there. But Bo Nix, QB2-ish the rest of the way, high-end QB2 if you want to call it. For those who are wondering about JK and Harvey, I think it's clearly been established. JK is the clear lead, as we talked about this offseason. At some point, I do think RJ Harvey will get his opportunity, but as long as Denver's winning games and this is like a playoff team, they're going to stick to the formula. And for me, it feels like JK is just going to continue to have high-end RB2, back-end RB1 value the rest of the way. So RJ Harvey to me is a risky flex on a weekly basis, but he's involved in the passing game. So especially during bye weeks, I think he's going to have some appeal. He's probably going to do you dirty some weeks, but then have a touchdown or 6 catches for 50 yards in some weeks. So until his role increases, he's going to be a risky flex. I do think he is flex worthy. And I think as maybe a couple weeks go on, he might be somebody I talk about as like a buy low type guy. I think another buy low on this team is Evan Ingram, who had 4 catches for 33 yards and a touchdown. Now, Evan Ingram sucked the first few weeks, but he was dealing with an injury, so we can't forget about that. And, Sean Payton has talked about scheming him in, getting him targets. We saw the looks last week, not the production. We saw the production this week on the diving touchdown. So I think Evan Ingram is a good buy low. You could probably still buy low on him, probably dropped in a lot of leagues. I would not leave him on waivers, and I think if I needed a backup tight end, because my other tight end was Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, David, and like somebody that was tough to trust, I think Evan Ingram would be like a good secondary option to have. Not sure I'd feel confident starting him, but I think during bye weeks I feel good about him as a starter. And then Cortland Sutton, obviously the only receiver really to own. Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims, I'm not interested in either one of them. Jalen Hurts, obviously kind of missing the passing that made him like the quarterback one. He's still a top 5 quarterback right now, but like that's what made him like a threat for the QB1 is that he used A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. And we saw Smith get off this week, but something's missing right now in this passing game. So I think Jalen Hurts is still going to be a top 3-ish type quarterback, but I thought he had like the QB1 potential. I don't think he really has that. He's a top 3 to 5-ish quarterback on a weekly basis. As far as A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, I think good to see the targets there for both, but he's going to be tough to trust until something happens. Like he's either going to need to be moved or they're going to have some kind of team meeting, something. You see A.J. Brown try to go for that last touchdown, him and Devontae Smith fighting for it. Like, I don't know. I thought AJB would be much better this year. He's only 28. It's like he's an old receiver, came off of a strong year last year, even though he was injured. Something is off here. So the targets were there. They've come up since the early parts of the season, but it's still ugly. You got to treat him as a wide receiver 2 right now, at best. And then Devontae Smith had a nice bounce back performance, but same thing. Like just until his passing game is right, it's tough to trust either of these guys on a weekly basis. And then Saquon Barkley, he got the touchdown, but like he doesn't have the same appeal as he did last year as a top, the number 1 running back. I still think he's a top 5 running back weekly, but he doesn't carry that same appeal as last year. Unfortunately, just what do you have, 6 carries on the week. So it's not that like Saquon is bad. I just think this offense is doing something way different without Kellen Moore. It does not look the same. And then Goddard, he got the touchdown, had 9 targets. Obviously not the yardage there, but like I think he's still a threat for top 10 weekly numbers. All right, let me get a couple more questions. How many games I got left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I got 8 games left for today. Couple questions, and I'll get back into the games. So if y'all feeling this, I'll try to do this on a weekly, Love the breakdowns on players and games, gives an idea on how to treat players. Okay, cool. Should I pre-record it or should I be live like and go through it? Because I kind of feel like I like being live, bro. It's way easier for me to like go through everything live. Keep the energy up. I hate just sitting in front of a thing for like an hour and a half. Like, it's boring. It's super boring. Crazy, it was 5 p.m. your time before the game started. So, yeah, that was one of the crazy – I know how y'all feel on, like, the East Coast now where, like, the game starts super late. So, the London game started at 2:30 my time. The game started at, like, 6, I want to say. They started around 6. And then – the night game, bro. I was like this for the night game, drinking espresso, was watching it in bed. 1:15 start or 1:20 start for the night game, a.m. my time for the night game. So had to get up and watch the rest of it this morning. Got the dub because of Dowdle. Let's go. Do you think he'll continue to play or will Hubbard take over? I think once Chuba Hubbard comes back, he worked himself into a split. 2-3 in the 12-man full PPR, you're good. What do you do with AJ Brown? If you're 2-3 right now, try to wait it out. Something will happen here. Trade deadline. I forget what week the trade deadline is. That's bad. I should know the trade deadline. I don't know the trade deadline, but I think AJ Brown, if you made it this far with him, just hope for better days. Need a Hail Mary off waivers for Monday night. Pacheco or Smith? I would say Pacheco. Is Jacksonville defense if they've been beat at the running back position too? I would say Pacheco, but there's been a lot of talks that Brashard Smith is going to get more involved, but Pacheco did have a TD last week in the receiving game. I would still go Pacheco because if they go Brashard Smith, that means they're making a fundamental change for the rest of the season. I would let me scratch this. Upside for this week, I would get Pacheco. If you're looking for upside rest of the season and they're both on waivers, go Brashard Smith because if he does pan out for you, you have an RB2. I think Pacheco, even with the touchdown, 40 yards, like we kind of know what Pacheco is. If Brashard Smith steps into like some crazy role we're not expecting, he could be the new Isaiah Pacheco. I would go Pacheco. If you're looking for upside, go Brashard Smith. Do not get rid of Henry when the weather changes, the beast comes out. Yeah, I just think it's too early to get rid of like some of these players. Yeah, I like this. All right, bet. Y'all feeling this? Y'all feeling this? If you haven't dropped the like, yeah, if y'all haven't liked the stream yet, like the stream, man. Y'all got to like the stream, man. Morning, Jahan. What's good, man? He said, how's the moving journey been so far? Loco talked about it, man. It's been good, bro. It's more of a vacation than a permanent move. Like, I'm not moving out here permanently just for 8 months. So I guess you can call it a move. But for me, this has been incredible. It's been peaceful. Life out here is a lot slower than it is in the States. And, like, just getting to spend this time with family and try something new and get my family experience is something that I will probably never get to do again. But I'm so thankful that I got to do it. So this is it's been incredible, man. Nothing short of it. And I couldn't be more thankful for being out here. It sucks because like I feel like in the grand scheme of it all, like I left my marketing company. I had to tell my clients by, and then for fantasy, like I took a couple weeks where like it's been tough getting my bearings straight as far as like getting out info. But I want to get back to the fantasy side. I'm not going to let you guys go. And I'm going to be doing a lot more fantasy-wise. Hopefully, like I don't want to promise anything because I had high expectations to be able to continue working at the same level. It's just this experience when you get out here, it's like you just want to soak it all up, You really do. You really just want to soak it all up. And I've never been overseas. My first time in Europe, first time in Portugal. We're heading to Spain next week. We'll be going to Spain, and I'll be catching the Madrid game out there. So it's been great, bro. So I appreciate you asking. Appreciate you asking. All right, I'm going to get back into the games real quick, and then I'll come back to the questions. Feel free to keep dropping the questions in there. I'm trying to go as fast as I can through the games, but I also want to provide enough thoughts here so where we can I'm probably going to try to like recap this with AI into a document that I'm going to put on the Jahan Fantasy site. So if you don't have time to watch all this, I'm going to try to get this on there. If not, I'll be doing some like rest of the season stuff for the next couple weeks like this. As far as the Miami-Carolina game, Carolina with a crazy come from behind win. And it's good. Like I got to watch every single game. There's no blackouts on in Europe. There's no blackouts because you get the zone, DAZN. So you get the zone and you get to watch every single game. Like Red Zone is out there. So this has been chill. I've been able to watch like all the games just as normal. I was kind of concerned about that. Like I wouldn't be able to watch the games because NFL Plus don't work overseas. So you have to use the zone. And shit, it's been working. Been working like a gem. Miami, Carolina, we got Miami 24, Carolina 27. Like I said, good come from behind. Win for Carolina. Tua had, I would say he had a great game, man. 256 and 3 TDs, especially without Tyreek and especially with the concerns Carolina had been shutting down quarterbacks and wide receivers. So had the bomb to Waddle in that game. So I think Tua will be Tua. He'll be a QB2, have some good games and have some games with question, is he a startable guy even in the league? But good to see Tua bounce back. Waddle, for those wondering, is going to be a high-end wide receiver 2 the rest of the way, especially as the one here for Miami with Tyreek Hill's injury. So I think he'll be a high-end wide receiver 2. You can count on him. Probably have some spike weeks. And then, just with Tua being up and down, still, obviously we got to worry about him injury-wise. Tua and Waddle, he got banged up, came out, and then came back in the game. You got to worry about Waddle a little bit too injury-wise, but I still think he's a high-end wide receiver 2 rest of the way. So if you have him, treat him like that. As far as the wide receiver 2 on this team, I think we were hoping it could be like Malik Washington, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. It's like Washington had 5 targets, but I don't really see a true secondary receiver threat on this team. It kind of feels like the same thing as last year, whereas they're going to use the tight end. And Darren Waller, as much as we joked about him this offseason, is emerging as a real threat. Like, I think he's a tight end 1 until further notice, which is crazy to say. I think we were talking about Waller, but like he is, and he's not Jonnu Smith, but they're using him in the red zone. Like, they're using him in the passing game, 5 catches, 78 yards. Like, he's still playing at a high level. So I think Darren Waller, until he tells us something otherwise, like this is a joke, haha, like Darren Waller is a legit tight end 1 right now. So treat him as that. He's the secondary option in this passing game right now, unless you consider Achane that. But Waller, treat him as a wide receiver in this offense, as the wide receiver 2 in this offense. There's a chance he might even be a little bit more consistent than Waddle. Devin Achane obviously had that crazy touchdown catch. I think Achane is who he is. He's an RB1, but really kind of lacking some of the big play stuff, lacking a lot of the huge volume receiving wise and rushing wise to make him like a top 3 running back. I think he's still been a top 5 to 7 running back on the year, but I like Achane. I'm glad we took him where he did, but I don't know if he has that game-breaking upside ceiling. Maybe we see it in the second half of the year. We just haven't seen it so far. As far as the Carolina side, Bryce, like I said, nice comeback from behind win. He's probably been a little bit more valuable than advertised. But, obviously with like Bryce, you just want to see him have upside. And I don't think we really see that. And it's going to kind of affect Tetairoa McMillan as well, who's been a wide receiver 2 or 3. But we're kind of waiting on like that the real breakout from him. And I don't know that we see it. Maybe in the second half we do, but it feels like Bryce Young would have to be a lot better in order to see McMillan be like a top 15 guy the rest of the way. So I do think Millen's a top 20 to 25-ish receiver, a good wide receiver 2 to have. But I think he's kind of missing that upside. So I don't know. Hopefully we can see a breakout performance from him. But yeah, he looks like a good wide receiver 2. Nothing more, nothing less. You can't talk about this Panthers win without talking about Rico Dowdle in his 200-yard game. He's going to have another opportunity next week versus Dallas. I talked about at the top of the show, probably a top waiver pickup if Chuba Hubbard were to miss this next week. I wouldn't blow my fab on him because I'm assuming Chuba Hubbard comes back from his calf at least within the next week or 2, but could have another good game against Dallas. So the thing is, I talked about it this offseason. That's why you have to be concerned if you have Chuba Hubbard about a Rico Dowdle. And I think when he comes back, it'll be a split. When Chuba Hubbard comes back, it'll be a split. For now, treat Rico Dowdle as a RB2 against Dallas. And I think moving forward, I would treat him as a bench stash. And Chuba Hubbard just gets more of a downgrade into like RB2, RB3 territory. As far as Houston, Baltimore, we saw Houston bounce back 44-10. Can't really take away a whole lot from the Baltimore side with Cooper Rush playing as bad as he did. Lamar's going to be out, so everybody gets a downgrade on the Ravens side. Like Derrick Henry just kind of looks more RB2-ish right now. But I think the entire passing game, until Lamar gets back, just gets a downgrade. On the Houston side, though, we saw a nice bounce back game from C.J. Stroud, 4 touchdowns. Nico Collins. How do y'all view Nico? Because to me, he's still a wide receiver 1. He's just not the elite wide receiver 1 most people wanted him to be. I still think he's a wide receiver 1. He just kind of fits in that back, like mid to back end wide receiver 1, which is okay. The downfield stuff will still be there with him and CJ. I just don't know if we're going to see a whole lot of like the 150 with this offensive line playing the way it is. I just don't know if we'll see like the true Nico Collins could be the wide receiver 1. It could be a top 3 guy. I'm sure he'll be better at some point this year, and he's been good. I'm not saying he's been bad. I think he's still been wide receiver 1 worthy all season long, but I think what people wanted him to be, 150 yards, 2-3 touchdowns, like I just think we got to scale it back for Nico. He's still a wide receiver 1 in my book. Xavier Hutchinson was surprised, 2 TDs. I wouldn't look too much into it, but it's surprising to see him kind of shine over like Jaden Higgins, who I did have high expectations for this offseason, hasn't been there. Good to see Jalen Noel get in the end zone. Nick Chubb led the backfield after everybody thought Woody Marks would, and that's, the hype machine, sometimes it gets to people, right? Like the hype machine, one player plays bad, but teams have different agendas, right? Like we kind of saw with New England on the Sunday night game. Everybody expected Travion Henderson to come in and just be the starter. Now that Ramondre's fumbled and, Antonio Gibson's fumbled. But teams have different agendas. So just be careful with that. I think this is more of a hot hand approach. We'll see Chubb. We'll see Moody Marks. I think it'll kind of be an annoying backfield, to be honest with you. But Nick Chubb, good performance there, got in the end zone. Detroit and Cincinnati, not a whole lot here. It's business as usual for the Lions. Obviously Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sonic and Knuckles with him and David Montgomery in his homecoming. We saw the dual threat quarterback stuff there, him throwing the touchdown. So that was good. But business as usual for the Lions. Sam Laporta, bigger weapon than I thought he would be this year. And then J-Mo, not playing. My confidence is kind of wavering for him. So I thought J-Mo would be a bigger piece. He looks exactly like he was last year, boomer bust, wide receiver 3 flex option. I think it's a miss for J-Mo. If I had to be completely transparent, I think that's going to be a miss. Unless something happens injury-wise, J-Mo is going to be too up and down to trust. I'm sure the 152 touchdown game will be there, but you're going to get a lot more of these, like 1 catch for 10 yards and 2 for 30. That's tough. Then on the Cincinnati side, it's good to see, second half, Jake Browning had to play better because they were getting torched. But, I think Ja'Marr Chase will be fine. There will be games like that where he has, the touchdowns. And, I kind of think that inconsistent back end wide receiver 1, that's just who he is. Big games and some duds. But Ja'Marr Chase is fine. And that's why I say you don't really give up on players and treat them like wide receiver 2s just because – especially talented players that have proven to us they're good. It's tough. That's why it's so tough, man, to give up on like a Brian Thomas or give up on A.J. Brown. It's because they have games like that, and you're like, okay, that's who they are. Ja'Marr Chase reminded us who he was last week. T. Higgins, inconsistent wide receiver 3 rest of the way, TD dependent, unless Burrow comes back earlier than expected. And he's going to be TD dependent, wide receiver 3 flex at best right now. And then Chase Brown is who he is, bro. RB2, the passing game saved him a little bit, but he's just a RB2. He's just an RB2. There's not enough offense for him to be viable. He's an RB2. Washington and LA, great second half for Jaden Daniels, who came back first game from injury, even without Terry McLaurin. Debo. I've seen Debo be rated as like a top 10 receiver the rest of the way. He's been playing like that. I think he's more top 15 to 20-ish the rest of the way, especially once Terry gets back. He did have 11 targets. They've used him in the running game over the first few weeks. So curious to see what this whole offense looks like with Daniels healthy, with McLaurin back maybe next week. But for me, I think Debo is definitely a top 20 receiver. If I can move him as a top 10 to 12 receiver, I would. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt looking like the guy now. High-end RB2 the rest of the way, 111 yards, 2 touchdowns, has fully taken control of the backfield. Good for him. Good for anybody who held on to him through the good and the bad. And then Zach Ertz, after a strong starts, kind of looked mediocre. I don't know if I trust Zach Ertz the rest of the way. I don't know. Value on Zach Ertz to be determined. He's more like tight end 2 to me right now. As far as the Chargers side, we've seen kind of a comeback to earth for Herbert. Justin Herbert has been, he was a QB 5 week 1, but since then he's been the QB 18, 12, 20, and 18 again. Maybe it's not as passing high as the volume's not as much as we thought, but the good thing is he's still supporting like 3 wide receiver 2, 3-ish all year with Quentin Johnston, Keenan Allen, and Ladd McConkey. They all do different things. I think Johnson's going to be kind of a touchdown-dependent wide receiver 3. Keenan Allen's going to be a floor-based wide receiver 3 with some spike weeks, maybe more like back-end wide receiver 2. I think back-end wide receiver 2, high-end wide receiver 3 for all 3 of Keenan Allen, Quentin Johnston, and Ladd McConkey. And I think when it comes to Ladd McConkey, he's probably going to be the one that's the most annoying all year because he's not the true volume guy and he's not the true touchdown guy. They're even using him in the punt return game as we saw over the weekend. So I think these wide receivers, you kind of need to start all 3 of them just being part of the offense. I just think they're going to be kind of annoying as far as and Ladd's probably going to be the most annoying because you drafted him the earliest. As far as Marion Hampton, left the game in a walking boot. Hope it's not a high ankle for him. Otherwise, he'll probably be a 3 to 4 week type thing, maybe even longer. So you hope it's not a high ankle. We haven't seen the official designation yet. I'm sure we'll get more as the day goes on. But for now, I would still stay away from this backfield. Kamani Vidal, Hassan Haskins. I'm sure one of these guys will be like an RB2, RB3 on some weeks. And if I had to bet, maybe Kamani Vidal. And if you're just desperate at running back, go ahead and pick one of them up. I'm just not confident in either one of them. My guess is that this team is probably active. If Hampton has to go on IR, my guess is that this team will be active and looking for a running back after losing Najee for the season. So Marion Hampton, like I said, hope it's not a high ankle. Hopefully it's a low ankle. If it's a low ankle, you could probably do 1 to 3 weeks. If it's a high ankle, it's probably more 3 to 6 weeks, and you need to have another option in case he goes on IR. Tennessee, Arizona. We saw Cam Ward definitely look better. They got that late win off that crazy touchdown. The interception turned fumble, turned touchdown. That was wild to watch. But Cam Ward still improving in a way. He's still kind of a ways from being like fantasy relevant, getting better, obviously. But at least it looks like Calvin Ridley will have some flex value, wide receiver 3 value. I know he was probably on a lot of benches this week, but I think as time goes on, we'll see Ridley be better. A.O. Manner's got to be able to not kind of be a rookie. Like we're seeing too many peaks and valleys from him to trust in lineups. But as Cam Ward improves, I think Ridley will improve. Concerns about A.O. Manner not looking the part. But Chig did play really well in the second half. I don't think he's a real option tight end wise, but I am going to keep my eye on Chig to see if he can play as well as he did in the second half of that game. It wasn't really box score-ish, but like just watching the game, Chig was making plays. For the running backs, we saw Tony Pollard get the touchdown late, but Spears is back now. And I think it was his first game back coming from his high ankle. But I do think we see Spears get more involved at some point. Now, your guess is as good as mine when that happens, but if we start to see the touches even out here in the next week or two, Spears will be a buy low. This is a guy that might get dropped this week because he didn't perform at a super high level coming off of his injury. I'm not saying he's a must pick up, but I wouldn't leave Spears out there just in case things change for him as the season goes on. We saw Kyler get banged up, come back into the game, had the rushing score, just missed on that long 40-yard TD to Marv. He caught it, but obviously just short of the goal line. But Kyler probably is who he is back in QB1. I'm not really expecting much different from Kyler at this point. Marv flashed the upside there, had almost 100 yards, but we're still looking for that monster game. Like I don't know if we're going to get that monster game from Marv. When we do, things will be up from him. And I do think we'll see that from Marv. At some point, the monster game, like they're trying him downfield, they're getting him more looks. So I think coming off of a loss, we saw Marv be productive. The running backs are down right now. It wouldn't be surprising to see Marv have a monster game soon. I don't know. Maybe I'm just like overly optimistic on Marv, but I think the big game is coming from him. And if you could get Marv at like wide receiver 2 prices or shit lower than that, then do it. I think Marv's value kind of is what it is right now. I think there's more ceiling there than he's let on. Until further notice, Michael Carter is the back to own, still an RB2. Until Trey Benson returns from IR. It's going to get ugly once he does. I still haven't seen the official timeline for Benson. I need to look that up. But DeMercado with a terrible fumble at the goal line would have made for a much bigger day on that long play from him. But obviously, terrible move from him. Obviously, whatever kind of confidence they had in him is probably gone. I know he got a carry late in that game, but and then Trey McBride, definitely a floor play, top 3 tight end. He hasn't really shown a whole lot of like ceiling, which is kind of concerning for Trey McBride, especially as Marv kind of improves his role with the team. Tampa Bay and Seattle was a shootout, 38-35. Baker's elite. There's no other way to put it. And I was too low on Baker coming into the year. I know a lot of people thought touchdown regression. I know people probably thought when Mike Evans would go out, there'd be some when he went out, there'd be some regression. Not at all. 379 yards, 2 touchdowns. And Emeka Egbuka is the real deal. And I want to say sell high. Like everything in me wants to say sell high, but you can't. Like, why? When he keeps having performances like he did over the weekend, and I know Mike's out and he's going to come back, but like, damn, just keep him. At some point, just keep him. Like, damn, like, you know, you don't have to trade everybody. I want to say sell high, and I've been wrong about sell high because he is the real deal. I think at some point he's going to come back down to reality, but he keeps proving me wrong, man. Emeka Egbuka is the real deal. Cade Otton, we saw him become a bigger part of the offense. And I think when it comes to Chris Godwin, those who waited for him to start the season with the injury, he's a tough start right now. Till we see him with a regular game, we're seeing games under 50 yards, under 5 catches. Like, until we see more from Godwin, we got to just temper the expectations. So I think with Godwin, he's a tough start right now. I don't fully trust him in lineups. And he's just a bench piece that I would probably hold on to for another week or two. Once Mike comes back, I'd want to see a game with him. And if he didn't perform then, it might just be a down year for Godwin. Bucky Irving expecting to miss a couple weeks. He's got a shoulder, and I think it's either ankle or foot. So we're seeing Rachaad White stepped up. He had 2 touchdowns. And until further notice, he's a back-end RB1, high-end RB2 until Bucky gets back. I think rip and replace, like a lot of people try to do rip and replace for players. Bucky and Rachaad is a rip and replace for me. So high-end RB2, back-end RB1 for me with Rachaad White. And then on Seattle side, Darnold playing really well overall. I didn't think he would be playing this well. He is playing very similarly to how he did with the Vikings last year. So good for you if you can, you need a quarterback during bye weeks. I think Darnold is more than serviceable. Probably a little bit more matchup dependent, but I think he's good to go. And then JSN's a real threat. I talked about it when Trey asked. JSN's a real threat for the wide receiver 1 overall this year. Just the volume, the workload is going to be crazy. They're throwing it to him, touchdown-wise. He's getting what you want. So I wasn't sure the touchdowns would be there or even the receptions. Both are going to be there. He's probably going to be a threat for 1,500, 1,600 yards. JSN, man. I was too low on JSN coming into the year. And then I think Torrey Horton has some intriguing upside here. If he hasn't been picked up in your leagues, I think he's an interesting bench piece, an upside flex type. Like, it just seems like he's more involved with Kupp in that he's their younger player. I could see him down the stretch having more value than Cooper Kupp. And it's like Kupp has some value, but he just doesn't have the appeal that he once had. And I think he doesn't really have any upside. So I think maybe the floor is there with like 5 to 6 catches, 50, 60 yards at times. It's just, I think I'd rather have Torrey Horton in a vacuum than Cooper Kupp. Probably value them both similarly as like flex bench options. And then A.J. Barner is now becoming an interesting tight end play. He's had 3 weeks in the top 10 at the tight end position over the first 5 weeks. So kind of an intriguing tight end play here. And I kind of feel like Zach Charbonnet, you'll see him get a touchdown. We'll see Kenneth Walker with the big game. They kind of seem to be capping each other's ceiling. So I'd still rather have Walker than Charbonnet, but they both seem to be kind of just capping each other's ceiling right now. More hot hand than we want for fantasy, unfortunately. And then in the night game, I think Drake May showing why he's a top 5 to 10 option weekly. We saw Ramondre Stevenson put the ball on the ground again, but he did have 2 touchdowns. So, like, kind of a crazy player to own right now. We saw Gibson be more involved, and then obviously TreVeyon Henderson, it was kind of a split. I think it was 6 carries or 7 carries, 8 carries, something like that for all the running backs. So truly a committee right now where Stevenson's still getting the red zone work. So until we see TreVeyon Henderson just take over a massive workload, he's more of an RB3 flex. Gibson is off the radar. Stevenson's an RB2 until further notice. And then Henry on the missed touchdown. He's a touchdown or bust option. If he would have caught that touchdown, we'd have been talking great about him, but he missed that touchdown, so he wasn't as good of a play this week. So just touchdown or bust option continues to be Hunter Henry continues to be. We saw Stephon Diggs go crazy against his old team. I don't think that continues. I think that was more of a revenge game type thing. And I think it's going to be tough for these receivers. But Diggs does look the part. He looks healthy, and I still think he's a wide receiver 3 on a weekly basis. As far as Josh Allen, he'll continue to be the best quarterback in fantasy. The one player I thought would have a lot more appeal on this team is Keon Coleman. It's just not there. He's droppable. I think Shakir is the clear one, and Kincaid, if you're being honest, is the wide receiver 2. Kincaid with another strong game. So those are 2 pass catchers to own. And congrats if you had James Cook, you got him in, after some of the holdout stuff, the hold-in stuff was going on, you got him in like 3rd, 4th round. He's going to continue to be a top 5 running back the rest of the way. All right. How y'all feel about those? Y'all like those? And then KC tonight, I'm kind of expecting a slower game, KC. Jacksonville. I'll just recap that game instead of try to forward think unless you guys have specific questions about it. All right, let me get back into the questions here. I'm just going to go through the questions and then I'm going to tap out for the day, man. So been on live for like an hour. Let me get Let me get to these questions. If I'm trading Mason and either Wandale Ladd or Marv for a better receiver, who am I looking at? So I think if it's Wandale and Mason, just go for it. Like I always like going for the fallen names. Like if I can get, I don't know if you can get AJB for that, but if you can get AJB or BTJ for that, those are the players I'm kind of targeting. I think with Ladd or with Marv, I'd hold. Ladd is probably the next tier, and then Wandale is a clear tier after that. So I think you got to look at Mason as like treat him as a top 12, 15 running back, but value him personally as like a 15 to 25 running back, if that makes sense. In trade talks, value him higher than where he is going, or value him higher in trade talks. Hoping for 12 points from BTJ tonight. I think he could get that. The Chiefs defense is really limited receivers, though. That's the only problem. I don't know. Something's got to give here with Jacksonville, their offense. We haven't seen elite from Trevor. We haven't seen elite. We've seen good. We haven't seen elite in this. I mean, this Kansas City secondary, outside of like that Chargers game early in the year, they haven't really given up a whole lot. So I don't know. We'll see. I think BTJ can get 12, though, in PPR. Who can I trade Pittman and Debo for before they get hurt? I'm not wishing no injuries on nobody. I think luck is running out on Javonte and Chubb at running back. Listen, your luck doesn't run out until it runs out. I truly think Javonte is an RB1. Maybe he's not top 3, but he's an RB1 the rest of the way until something happens with him, a fumble or injury. I think he's an RB1 the rest of the way. Treat him like that. Nick Chubb is more like an RB2 to me. Doesn't catch the rock, kind of touchdown dependent, big play dependent. So I think he's RB2, RB3-ish. And then I don't think you can anticipate like Debo and Pittman before they get hurt. I think that's the wrong thing because you're going to trade them, and the players you get back might get hurt, you know? So I don't think anticipating getting hurt is right. Yeah, you don't know until you know. There's only so much. You're 100% right on that. It's just as a fantasy analyst, I get that all the time. It's just funny because one week it'll be like you miss all the shit, and then the next week it'll be, you know, you can hear the birds chirping. Like, especially like with Amarian Hampton, I got a lot about him. The one player I would say I get the most about right now, backlash, is like Puka. Missing on Puka, which is a miss. I don't really hear nothing about Colin Jonathan-Taylor, though. Like, you don't really hear a lot about, like, when you're right about a player. All you do in fantasy land, which kind of sucks as a creator, and I don't know how to fix this, is because people want takes, right? Like, you get information. You got great content creators out there, like Joel Smith, great content creator that provides, like, a lot of data-based information, right? There are a lot of great data-based information content creators, and I am not a data-based content creator. I don't think that's how you win in fantasy. I don't think that's the only way, to win in fantasy. I've found a lot more success not being data-based, like watching film and also knowing stats, right? Like knowing stats that affect fantasy, I've found to be a lot more successful than going off of air yards or yards per route run, shit like that. So I think you can find a lot more value in targets, or, you know, snap share is important, or I think just overall knowing like contracts, sometimes knowing who, you know, their role on the field is important. Draft pedigree is important. So I think that there's different ways to play fantasy, and a lot of it is eye test. I think a lot of it is application, and a lot of it is like your fortitude as well. Like, how much risk tolerance do you have? Do you panic when things, you know, get dire? Are you the kind of player that, you know, can take the risk and trade for a player that maybe is at their floor? So I think it's more of I view it more as like a stock market where you kind of know the entity. You get blue chip stocks, you can hit on penny stocks. That is how I view it, as opposed to like playing this numbers game that you can dissect, because football is too, like you talked about it. Football is, for me, you can have 5 weeks of information, and in any statistical, and I bet you any fantasy, any math guy will know this, 5-game sample size is not enough to base an opinion. It's not. Just theoretically, for most things, you can't base it off of 3 games, 5 games. Like, sample sizes need to be a lot longer. That's why it's easier to play fantasy basketball and fantasy, you know, baseball, because you have a lot more of a sample size than football. That's the math guy in me. Sorry, I'm. If y'all don't know, I was like Calc 1 as a freshman in high school. Like I'm very, very good with numbers. Giants' next 9 games are rough. I have not looked at their schedule, but I can't imagine it's anything nice if you said that. Jahan, I'm cooking. And you know what? This kind of adds up with like the Malik Neighbors stuff. People were saying you worried about Malik Neighbors because the corners. I'm kind of staying away from the Giants receivers anyway. Jahan, I'm cooked on 1-3. I need BTJ to go for 17 points and half-point PPR. Good luck. Philly, Broncos, Philly, Niners. Some of them isn't. Yeah, damn. Then the bye. Pittman huge this season, hasn't gone anything like expected. There's been a lot of parity. Yes, no one is expecting Ladd, Chase Brown, Nico, Jefferson to go like this exactly. Realistically, how many hits were there in the first 4 rounds? Not many, way more busts. Yes. So this is another piece here too. It's like, and I haven't done the homework on it, but I want somebody in the comments to let me know how many misses have there been in the first 4 rounds? Because there's been quite a bit. Like, just thinking off the top of my head, like if we went, Saquon's kind of been a miss, you could call it. CeeDee's been a miss. Nico's been kind of a miss. Brian Thomas has been a miss. Derrick Henry. You had A.J. Brown, Ladd McConkey, Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, Brock Bowers. Alvin Kamara was up there for some people. I know there's way more too. Like Terry McLaurin was up there. Mike has been a miss, if you want to call it a miss. There's been a lot of misses, man. And that's just off the top of my head. I know there's way more. Where is Jahan right now? Jahan is in Portugal, close to Lisbon right now. I'm just outside of Lisbon in a pretty nice area, just outside of Lisbon. But I will be heading to Porto within the next week or so. So you'll see the background change here. Be in Porto, and then I'm heading to Spain in about a week and a half. So next weekend I'll be in Spain. Derrick Henry's been ass. 3-1 forgot to bench DK. Yikes. I dropped DK for Hollywood. Don't do that. Got Jags kicker down 7. He has Mahomes. You don't have anybody else you could drop? I wouldn't drop DK for Hollywood. Nah. You're down 6 and he has Mahomes. Just pray that Mahomes has a down day and that the Jags offense goes crazy. And Cam Little hits like 5 60-yard field goals. Trade away Etienne and Ibuka for Garrett and Gentry. Thoughts? See, I'm not going to hold you. I think this is a good deal. Like I know I just talked about don't sell Ibuka, but like when Mike comes back, who knows? And maybe I'm just like completely off on Ibuka this year. Maybe he's like the top 5 receiver, but like Garrett's going to be a top 10 receiver the rest of the way. I think Ibuka and him probably similar value. And I'd much rather have Gentry even after the game he had last week. I think Gentry will smash at some point upside-wise over Etienne. Like I just think that Garrett, that's how you trade, in my opinion. You go get the more established – things tend to balance out. You feel me? Like that's what I'm saying. So the Garrett Gentry side, I'd much rather have than Ibuka Etienne. You establish a new floor now. That's how I put it. Like establish a new floor. Matt, what's good, bro? He said, whoa, Jay, this early. Wild times we in. Yeah, it's early for y'all. It's 2:40 for me right now. 2:40 my time. Good to catch you on a live finally. It's been weeks. Just haven't been able to line it up. How you been, sir? Been great. Like I said, I talked about at the top of the show. I'm living life right now. So I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to boast or brag or nothing. I'm just telling you, you asked, I'm telling you how it is, man. It's things have been great for me right now. And really good space mentally, man. This has been good for me and my family. And yeah, bro, like I said, I'm trying to balance like keeping normal life intact without just like dishing everything and like going away from it all. This has been an incredible experience. And like it's tough. I still love watching football, but it's tough to like sit on a laptop and take time away from the experience. Being honest with y'all, it's tough to take time away from the experience to do stuff that I know I need to do back home, but I still love talking. I watched every game still had Red Zone up. But yeah, bro, it will be a life-changing experience for your boy. So appreciate you checking in on me. Something bad going on between A.J. Brown and Hurts. The Eagles are trying to keep it in the house, but AJB is doing it differently. I think AJB has moved this year. Yeah. You know what? It's probably because like he knows how valuable he is, and it's tough not being able to play the role that you want as like he thinks he's the best receiver in the game. And it's tough to like watch Jalen Hurts get all the touchdowns, Saquon be a good teammate, and then never get your shine. Like I feel like that's the hardest part with AJ Brown. Drop Dowdle for DeMarcado when the Connor news drop. Ugh, sucks, man. Hopefully, yeah. Sucks, man. Sucks. Hopefully you can get him back. Hopefully you can get Dowdle back. And the thing is, for Dowdle, it's only gonna be 1 week. DeMarcado it sucks. He didn't look the part. I mean, he had the big play, just dropping the touchdown is crazy. Another thing AJ was saying, like last year, he had to get his knees drained like every week. Healthy knees. I didn't know that. That's good info to have, man. It sucks because I really thought AJ Brown would be like, I thought AJ Brown would have an incredible, I thought he would have a great year this year. What are some of the foods you've liked that you've tried overseas? Great question. Thank you, Loco, for something. I love fantasy stuff. I love fantasy, but I also love when you guys ask other stuff too. I tried sardines for the first time, Portuguese sardines, and they were kind of fire. I'm not going to lie. Also had a new sandwich called Bafani or something like that. I can't remember it. Bafani. And then I had this cod with like, it sounds weird, like cod with like a mayo and something else over the top of it and like olives. That was kind of fire from Portugal. So we tried a lot of like Portuguese food. Everything is much cleaner over here. Like I don't ever feel bloated or nothing, man. The food has been like insane. You can go, if you're not following me on Instagram, follow me on Instagram. Because like if you only get the fantasy content on TikTok and YouTube, I'm going to start posting pictures on Facebook and IG. So you guys can follow me on there too if you're wondering like a little bit of the journey. I posted some photos on there. I'll probably post some video on there too. But posting in my stories a little bit more over there. It's tough because I have like on IG, it was more like my personal account. And then the fantasy stuff started hitting. So I used to do like more motivational and marketing stuff. It's been kind of a weird transition on IG. But I started posting most of my fantasy content on there. I'm still posting some of my personal stuff on there too. But yeah, man, the food's it's been interesting to say the least. Like going to a Portuguese store has been interesting. Like can't read nothing and talking to the locals. Like I don't know Portuguese, but obrigado, like I know how to say thank you and hola and shit like that. So yeah, it's been like weird, like, but I've liked it. Like I don't know how else to put it. I got May, Dak, AK Hall, CD, BTJ. About to be 1-4. Thoughts on this team? I chose the wrong player to start most of the time, like a QB. I feel like that's the name of the game so far. A lot of the elite options have not performed as expected. So you've had Dak and May. You probably struggled there. Breece Hall's had some up and down games. AK has been tough to trust. CD got hurt. BTJ's had some hit and miss games. Garrett Wilson, up and down games. Devontae up and that's the nature of fantasy right now. So hopefully you can go on a nice little win streak here. What are you hoping to get for Judkins in the trade? Hoping to get top 12 value. I saw last week, we talked about it right here. You could have got Jamar Chase for Judkins last week. I think you should still be chasing like a high-end player. So don't trade Judkins for anything less than high-end player. Trade Olave and Cup for Rashee Rice. Yeah, do it. So I need to talk about Rashee Rice. He'll be back week 7. So another week until we see Rashee Rice, 6-game suspension. But I would for Rashee Rice, I think this is a deal I would do for the upside. Now, I talked about it this offseason. I said draft Rashee Rice at like wide receiver 3, and we wouldn't see him until after the bye. This team hasn't established Kelce as a prominent target. Xavier Worthy he's been hurt, right, and hasn't shown what we need to see out of him yet. Pacheco in this ground game hasn't been good. They are going to need Rashee Rice. So I think I'm going to be wrong about Rashee Rice as well. Like when he comes back, in the offseason, I thought, Mahomes is going to look the part. This offense is going to be clicking. Probably see Rashee Rice be more like wide receiver 3-ish until after the bye in week 10. And then we could see Rashee Rice back to his normal workload, which for fantasy purposes meant you needed to draft him like earlier than expected. I thought draft him at wide receiver 3 range. I think I'm going to be wrong about Rashee Rice over the next couple weeks, and I think we see him week 7, week 8, week 9 look like the old Rashee Rice. So I think he could still be a top 12, 15 guy. And, yes, I would do this deal. Olave and Cup. Cup hasn't been anything short of mediocre. And Olave is just a guy. He's going to be tough to trust in a bad offense. I think he's a wide receiver too, but I think Rashee Rice just gives you that little bit of extra. So just know you're going to eat the next week or 2 for him, like at least the next week for week 6, and then he'll be back. So I would get Rashee Rice here. Nico's a high-end wide receiver 2 with mid-tier wide receiver 1 upside. I'm okay with saying that. okay with saying that. Scatterbo Goddard for Bowers and Addison. Oh, great deal. I love this deal for you. Good job. Good job. I love that deal. You did not mess up your team. Great, great. I think you cooked too. Good job. Those are the kind of moves you make. I'm kind of concerned about Brock, but not enough for this deal. Goddard's a back end tight end one. Scatterboo will be mediocre all year. You got upside with Addison, upside with Bowers. Good move. 4-0 about to be 5-0. Great job. You spent a lot of fab on Diggs. No. You don't need to spend a lot of fab on Diggs. Just spend a mediocre amount on Diggs. You are 5-0. You need to be planning ahead right now, planning for the buys. So great talk here. If you're 4-0, 5-0, I think a lot of people will recommend start preparing for fantasy playoffs. It's a little too early for 5-0 planning for fantasy playoffs. It means you have a great team. What you need to be prepping for is to make sure you are good over the buys. There's only two ways to do this. If you're going to make trades, trade players that have buys. Like if you face that opponent, trade the buy to that player if you can. Trade the buy to that player if you can. Like if you face somebody in week 8 and there's a player, I can't think of a team right now. If you have a player that's playing week 8, trade it to that player. I think these guys might be telling me it's time to go. Trade him to that player. But I think as far as like if you're 5-0, plan for the buys, get to 8 wins and 7 wins or 8 wins, and then start to plan for the fantasy playoffs. I wouldn't do it quite yet. But I think for right now, you look the part. JT, Saquon, Javonte, you have elite running backs. Maybe you can move Harvey, or maybe you can move Javonte for the high for something since you got Saquon. Or maybe move Saquon for the high. I don't know. JT I would hold for sure. Ibuka would hold for sure. I don't think you need to spend on Diggs. Keep your fab. How do you view Stafford for the rest of the season? Adams Nakua without the rushing. I think Stafford is a QB2. I think he's going to have spike weeks, probably some regular weeks, 252 touchdowns. He's just a high-end to mid-tier QB2. Floor-based QB2. No, he'll have upside, but like it needs to be 300 or 3 touchdown plus. So he has upside. I think Adams and Nakua both can be top 15 guys the rest of the way. I talked about that. So if you haven't watched, if you're just tapping in right now, I actually did a recap on all the games that were played this week. LVIC, sorry, bro. I've just seen this right now. Should I trade Harrison for Rashee Rice in PPR? Non-PPR? No. I think I'd rather keep Harrison personally, but I could see them being very similar value, and I could see Rashee Rice outplaying Harrison as well. So I think personally Rashee Rice is a volume-based type threat. The schedule does lighten up a little bit for the Chiefs after this week. So potentially I would rather keep Harrison, but I'm not mad if you – I think they're similar. Probably more preference than anything. I think Harrison will be better, but that's a little bit more hope, whereas Rashee Rice has shown us already. That's the one thing is Rashee Rice has shown us he could be a top 5 guy. I'm still hoping that Harrison is. So the logical one is probably get Rice. Me personally, I like Harrison better though, if you're asking me. But I think logically, like I'm probably going more gut in here than anything with Harrison. I think Rashee Rice might be the better player to have. Should I sell high on Ibuka? If yes, for who? Sell high. You just got to sell him as like a top 5 receiver. So if you do sell Ibuka, don't sell him for anything less than like a top 5 receiver right now. Like you have to treat him as that. You have to. So I don't know like if there's not a clear like sell high. Like I wouldn't do Ibuka for Chase. I'd rather just keep Ibuka. Like it needs to be Chase and it needs to be AJ Brown and Nico and like you got to get more with those kind of deals. So and it needs to be like very high. Like you need to treat Ibuka like if you had Jamar Chase last year, if you had Justin Jefferson, if you had one of the elite names, treat him like that until he proves you otherwise. I mean, he's just performing at that level right now. Too late. Already traded Debo and Pittman for Saquon. I'm not mad at that. I think a PPR I'm not mad at this trade. I'm not. Props for tonight, Jahan. I literally don't know what the props are for tonight. I don't know what they are. It sucks, man. This shit sucks so much. And as somebody who like betting, I got to figure out a way. If you guys have any kind of like way for me to like get props overseas using a VPN, please somebody hit me on Twitter, DM something. I need to figure it out. I haven't been able to access it. Mac Jones looking good on your Niners. Is the controversy real? I don't know. We'll see. Mac Jones, bro. It's a system. They hate when you say it about Brock, but the system can make you look good. Morning, Jahan. Morning, afternoon, whatever we call it here. Going to be 3-2. You got Fields, Chase. Well, I think I need more wide receiver depth. You have Nico, Pearsall, JSN, Ellick. Yeah, any ideas? You got Chase Brown, Kyron, Kamara. I don't have any big ideas. You're 3-2, so I don't really have any big ideas here. I think I'd wait another week. You don't need it. You're 3-2. Just wait another week, because if Chase Brown plays better, Kamara plays better, now you got options depth-wise. Pearsall comes back. Now we can talk. Alec Ademeyer plays better. Now we can talk. So I think just chill. 3-2. 3-2 is a great spot. 86% of the players in the first round have not met their draft expectations. So for those naysayers out there who say you miss, or, fantasy guys, they don't know what they're talking about. These are consensus players. Like, who else were you going to take? Were we supposed to know that Trey Tucker was going to be elite this year? Were we supposed to know that Javonte Williams was going to be a top 3 running back? Like, I think it's early in the season too. It's chill, man. Like, and it's fantasy football. Like, I get, if y'all want to have somebody, sorry, Jahan, guys, this is me clipping up right now. If you want to have somebody to blame, go ahead. You could blame the fantasy creators. You could blame the rankings. But at the end of the day, like, we all play in a game. We all play in the same game. There's going to be hits and misses. Like, so I don't know. This has been the year of the waiver wire. Like, a lot of players in our starting lineup, a lot of players that are valuable were drafted after the top 6 rounds. Like Finnegan, you talked about it. 86% of the players in the first 6 rounds just haven't met expectations. So just chill. Like, your record's 0-5. Some things could turn around here very soon. Like, I just think that in fantasy football in general, we're so quick to say my season's over. I'm terrible. Things can happen. And I've seen an 0-6 team. I've seen an 0-7 team make the fantasy playoffs, make the championship. Like, don't give up. Don't give up on this shit, man. After round 3 and 6 is the worst. That's crazy. I got to go back through the players ranking wise, because I have to see who some of these misses are. Like, actually, I'm going to do that right now, just for the sake of clip. Just for the sake of the clip, I'm going to go back through the rankings. And then I got to get out of here, guys. I do. I'm going to go through a few more, but I do got to get out of here. All right. So PPR, the rankings were Jamar Chase, miss. Bijan, hit. Saquon, miss. Gibbs, hit. CeeDee Lamb, miss. Jefferson, you consider that a hit or a miss? I'm going to call it a hit. McCaffrey, hit. Malik, a miss. St. Brown, hit. Henry, miss. Genty, miss. Nakua, hit. Nico, miss. Achane, hit. Brian Thomas, miss. Jacobs, hit. London, miss. Taylor, hit. Brock Bowers, miss. Josh Allen, hit. A.J. Brown, miss. Chase Brown, miss. Lamar, hit. Well, with the injury, call that a miss right now? Could be a miss. Bucky, miss. Kyron, hit. Ladd, miss. Trey McBride, that early, kind of a miss. I'll call it a hit because he's the tight end 4 right now. I don't know. I think Trey McBride, that's probably a miss too. James Cook, hit. Jaden Daniels, miss. T. Higgins, miss. Tyreek, miss. Joe Burrow, miss. Jackson Smith and Jigba, smash. Jalen Hurts, mediocre. Call it a hit. Well, say he went where he was supposed to go. Marion Hampton, what do y'all call that? Is that a hit or a miss right now? I'd say he went where he was supposed to go. What do y'all call that? I call it a miss right now. Kamara, miss. Kittle, miss. Breece, hit. Breece Hall, hit. Terry McLaurin, miss. Mike Evans, miss. Garrett Wilson, hit. Devontae, hit. Kenneth Walker, what we call Kenneth Walker? Miss? Miss. Harrison, wide receiver 19. I think he's wide receiver 22 right now. Is that a hit or a miss? We called him miss. Trevion, miss. Chuba Hubbard, miss. James Conner, miss. DK Metcalf, hit. Mahomes, hit. DJ Moore's been, I'll say that's a hit. Cortland Sutton's been a hit. Laporta, hit. Worthy, miss. Swift, miss. Devontae Smith, miss. McMillan, kind of a hit. Jameson Williams, miss. Montgomery, hit. Harvey, miss. Pacheco, miss. Zay Flowers, hit. That's the top 5 rounds. How do y'all feel? There's a lot of misses in there. A lot of misses in there. Give me Garrett and Genty over the other 2. Yeah. Hope you had an amazing week. Have a great rest of your day. Appreciate you guys. Listen, I appreciate y'all as well. LVSC. I was waiting for you to go live Sunday. Thank you, bro. My bad, bro. I was planning on going live and I didn't. So hopefully I'm planning this week. My plans and what they have amounted to have not been the same as typical J-Hand. Normally when I plan to do something, fantasy football training camp, J-Hand fantasy, I'm normally really good about, like, I put my mind to it. It happens. For this week, my goal is to get better content out to you guys and more efficient content. So please don't hold me to it, but that is my goal. I'm going to try to do something on the daily if I can. It won't be daily. My goal is to do it daily, though, because we do have some things planned for the week. But I'm going to try to get to you guys a little bit more. You think Chase Brown has value or keep or trade? I think his value is at his lowest right now. So for me, he's more of a hold than like a trade. All right, y'all. Hey, I'm going to get out of here. Listen, I appreciate y'all for tapping in, and I will see you guys soon. Maybe I'll recap the game tomorrow or tonight. I don't know. I might go live tonight before the game tonight, but I will see you guys very soon. Next one. Peace out.